Am I the a-hole for taking my mother's ultimatum? So I had gotten a job and eventually started making money for myself to save up while I was living with my parents so I could move out eventually. After I got my first few paychecks, I asked my parents to take me to our cell phone provider. They both agreed, and both congratulated me on saving money to buy my own phone. I invited my boyfriend to come along with us, to which he agreed. Now, my dad, being the greatest man alive, paid for half of my phone and told me just to pay him back little by little. That way, I still have money to buy some stuff if I wanted. Fast forward a couple of weeks, I had finished paying off my dad and still paid for my phone bill myself. This is where my mother comes in. After those weeks, my mother approached me and asked if I could give them just a bit more money than my phone bill to help out with the utilities and such while I was staying there. No big deal. I agreed and started giving about $200 every 2 weeks to pay for my phone and help with the internet and water. After a while at my job, I was fired for missing too many days due to watching my nieces and nephew, while my sister and my mother went out and did errands. They would stay out almost 8 hours a day pretty much every day, and it would consistently make me late for work that I got wrote up twice because of it. So eventually the company let me go. I keep watching my nieces and nephew, and eventually got a new job at a smaller retail chain store. I still was paying the same amount of money while I was getting almost half as much in salary, and was paid weekly, which was leaving me with about $80 for the rest of the week. But after a few months, I was getting more and more frustrated with my mother. We were always having fights, and at each other's throats and screaming at each other. I always asked her why she wanted almost all of my money that I worked hard for. She would always just say, "You live under my roof, you will do as I say." This caused a major communication issue with us. So I told her I wasn't watching my nieces and nephew, so that way I could actually sleep so I could stay awake while working my third shift job. Cue the ultimatum. She berated me and told me that you can either give me money, stay here and watch your nieces and nephew while me and your sister do some errands, or you can get the hell out of my house. Then she left and went to the store. Needless to say, I chose to leave. I had all my stuff packed and called my boyfriend and told him what happened. He then called his mother, and she said that she would happily let me live with her and her son, my boyfriend. I gave my nieces and nephew my stuffed animals to take care of while I'm not there. My mother came back fuming, but didn't say a word other than, "I hope you're happy you're abandoning me just like your brother." I hugged her, told her I loved her, and left. I still kept contact with my dad, and my mom still tries to be a part of my life. Am I the a-hole for choosing to leave? Now for the top comments. Not the a-hole. I'm proud of you for leaving. I'm sure that it was still hard. You made the right choice as that was a toxic and controlling environment. Your mother thought she could guilt you into whatever she wanted, but you proved to her that you are your own person and won't take it. Good. The comment about your brother leaving her too was both unnecessary and very telling for parenting if you aren't the first to leave. Based on the mom's comment about the brother and Opie's post, I think we can pretty accurately deduce which kid is the mom's golden child. The major flaw with giving ultimatums is that the person you are trying to control will choose to take the consequence. Opie's mother is being abusive. When you mistreat people, you reap what you sow. You are not the a-hole. Your mother is. Not the a-hole. The fact that the same thing happened with Opie's brother and the mom didn't learn a thing makes her double the a-hole. Not the a-hole. You left a toxic situation. Let's recap. 1. You prove you are financially responsible. Good. 2. You contribute in accordance to your means. You're not a freeloader. Good. 3. Your mother and your sister require a chore from you that costs you the job, aka your financial independence. 4. You find another job with lower pay. However, with fewer resources, you are still expected to contribute as much as before when your family had a hand in reducing your resources. 5. You finally draw a line, refusing free babysitting on the grounds that your body requires sleep. 6. Your mom responds to you finally addressing the issue with issuing an ultimatum. You took it, end of story. Either your mother is oblivious to how thin she was stretching you, or she's more into control than your personal growth. Don't go no contact, but don't go back either. You did well. Not the a-hole. Glad you left. You already lost a job because you had to watch the kids. But yet your mother still wants you to pay but risk losing your paycheck to watch your sister's kids? Why don't they bring the kids with them or pay for childcare? They should be paying you to watch the kids. Good on you for calling her bluff and leaving. Next story. Am I the a-hole for asking my mom when she's going to start prioritizing her kids? My 17 female mom had me fairly young, and as a result, I now have a 7-week-old brother. My mom thinks she's done parenting, so from the day she brought my brother home, I've been responsible for him pretty much. Now she's not pregnant anymore. She can go drink and smoke grass with her friends, and that's pretty much all she's been doing since he was born. Some nights, she doesn't even come home. I live in a country with paid maternity leave, luckily, so my mom is still getting paid for the time she's taking off, but she blows through it fairly fast. I've dealt with that one by getting shop brand everything, and I started cloth napping the baby so there's money for important things like his formula and clothes when they're needed. So this morning, I told my mom I needed money for the grocery shopping as we're low in everything, including formula and wipes. Normally I do the shopping on a Saturday because Sunday morning is hangover day, but there was a roadblock in my bus route yesterday. Then my mom turned around and said she hasn't got any money, and that she spent it all last night. This was all it took to provoke me. I began to give out to her about everything. I told her that she's a horrible parent, and that the day I move out, I'm taking the baby with me and we're going no contact. But the line that set her off was, "When are you going to start prioritizing your children like a real parent?" This made her really angry. She went on a rant and called me insults, such as a-hole, brat, the c-word, the list goes on, and then told me to get lost. So I took my brother and went to a mate's. Am I the a-hole? Not the a-hole. I started cloth napping the baby. Normally I do the shopping on a Saturday. You sound like a mother. What that means is, A, you're a truly decent person for stepping up and taking care of this baby's needs. And B, your mother's an a-hole for putting you in that position. Don't think for a second you're any of the things she called you. I agree, except for the threat of taking the baby with her. While she may be doing all the work, OP is not the legal guardian. Sure, that could change with CPS, but that's not something to toss around in a heated argument. Not the a-hole. Your mother is a horrible parent. If there is a way to report her, I would. You should be worrying about school, friends, and enjoying your summer. Not raising an infant and worrying about nappies, wipes, and formula. That baby and you deserve better. This. OP, please leave ASAP and contact CPS, or whatever your country's equivalent for children's services is called, the second you can. Parentification is abuse, and your mom clearly expects you to pay for all her partying/messing around. I won't vote either way, as this is beyond a silly Reddit judgment. You need to get in contact with whatever form of social services you have in your country and save not only yourself, but your little brother. It's terrifying and will drastically change the course of your life. You're old enough to at least scrape by as you get back on your feet, but your little brother is not. Should he be left in her care, and the situation really is as dire as it sounds, you won't be able to help him when the hammer inevitably strikes and you leave the house. Imagine the mistreatment you must have gone through. Would you want him to go through that as well? Call someone, anyone, who knows of the government programs designed to help and protect young people in your position. And should said agency deem it really as drastic as it seems from your post, you'll end up with a better outcome than you would by staying with her. Now for the next story. Am I the a-hole for concealing my pregnancy from my family and not announcing until after I had given birth? I gave birth to my son in May. My pregnancy with him was not planned, though very much a highlight for my husband and me. The only thing was that I didn't want my family, mom, her husband, his kids, and his mom, to know. I was estranged from my mom for a number of years, and we had sort of reconciled a couple of months before the pandemic sent us into lockdown. Our relationship has been rocky since then, and I didn't want her trying to push past the let's see stage into me being her baby and her being grandma. She hurt me deeply. Not understand why. I struggled to cope with my dad's death when I was 9. He was sick for 2 years, had faded a lot in his last few months, and ended up very sick and in hospital for the final weeks of his life. It was traumatizing, and my dad was the stay-at-home parent with me before he got sick, so he and I spent a lot of time together and we were close. But my mom did her grieving when he was sick, and was able and ready to bounce back and start dating fast. Whereas I had nightmares, woke up crying, and often had panic attacks after his death. It pissed her off that babysitters would call her home from dates. And then when she got married and I was crying, It pissed her off even more because she had wanted me to keep watch of her husband's 2 kids at the time. It was another year passed before my grandparents were able to convince her I needed help, and this was 3 years after losing my dad. I was diagnosed with depression and trauma-related anxiety and started pretty intensive treatment. But even then, my mom showed no real empathy for me, and she was very cold about it all. But everyone in the house, my mom, her husband, his kids, and his mom, expected me to be happy and love how things were. My mom and I got into a fight when I was 17, because I chose to mark the anniversary of my dad's passing instead of celebrating her mother-in-law's retirement. And with that, I moved in with my grandparents and we didn't talk for many years. I did consider telling her about my pregnancy a few times, but I wasn't sure I could set boundaries with her and wanted to wait. But she found out 2 days after my son was born, and she was angry. She told me I denied the family the chance to be excited and plan for a new addition to the family, and that it was her and her husband's first grandchild, and I had no right to keep them in the dark for so long. He told me I was punishing my mom for being happy when I couldn't be. It made me question my decision to reconcile, but still I need to know. Where my actions are concerned, am I the a-hole? Now for the top comments. Not the a-hole. Once again, she made your experience about herself. The only thing she should have said was, "Congratulations, what would you like for me to do?" I think from her reaction, you should clearly see that nothing has changed. I would close the door on that part of my life. Wishing you and your growing family the best. Thank you. I kept my mother in my life out of guilt and feeling that I owed her. I didn't owe that witch anything, and neither do you. She hurt you and doesn't care. Keep that vile woman away from that precious baby. You'll be a better mom for it. Not the a-hole. She did not have a right to know. She isn't entitled to anything from you. She should be appreciative that she found out it all. But it seems like she hasn't changed, and you may want to protect your child from her. That's where my thoughts were too. It's been a lot of bad history with us, and it looks like maybe it just can't work. Not even sure I truly wanted to, or if I was just going along to see. Either way, it's clear none of this is healthy for my son. Not the a-hole. It's not about her or your extended family. It's about you, your husband, and your baby. She's trying to make this about her when it's not. If she can't even attempt to see your point of view, then how much has really changed? Not really. I mean, yes, it was a conscious decision as an adult not to tell her, so maybe more can go on me. But it's very much like it was before, down to her anger and a willingness to understand. You did what was best for you and your family, and that's what matters here. Don't take the blame as you did nothing wrong. If it helps, my mother-in-law tried to get into it with me saying some BS about grandparents' rights. I told her to take me to court then, and that she won't be seeing her grandson until she can respect my wishes. You're the mom now. You have the opportunity to be everything you wanted from your mom. Look out for your baby. You got this, OP. Thank you. I needed to hear that from someone not my husband. He's wonderful, but he also loves me, and I know he's probably biased knowing I can do it. Your words mean more than my words here can express. Last story is titled, Am I the a-hole for not letting my kids go with my mom and her boyfriend? My mom lives in Washington and I live in Kentucky, and my mom just drove across the country to visit my kids and meet her new granddaughter. She recently got into a relationship with this guy who I had not met until Thursday last week, and we had been flirting with the idea of my 2 oldest boys driving back with them. They were going to take their time driving back to Washington and see different sights along the way. My wife and I were not entirely comfortable with this idea since we had not met him, but we were just going to trust her judgment. While they were here in Kentucky, my mother-in-law said they could stay at her vacant house while they are working out of town. I know this guy likes to smoke grass, which isn't a huge deal, except my mother-in-law and father-in-law have a very strict no substances rule at their house. I very directly told my mom's boyfriend that they have one rule, no grass or any other Ds. He acted like it wasn't a big deal, and I reiterated no grass. The neighbor is a state trooper, and will call my in-laws or the police if he catches a whiff, so just don't do it. Then my mom tells me he smoked the very same night I told him about their rules. Originally, their plan was to wait until later in the week to drive back, but then I got a call from my mom saying they're planning to leave Monday. I tell her that I can't trust him, and that my kids will not be joining them on their trip back. When I explained to her why I'm not comfortable with them going back with her boyfriend, she cried and told me it was just a misunderstanding. I tell her it was not a misunderstanding. I was very clear on the one rule my mother-in-law has for her home. It basically said, screw you, I'm going to do what I want. I also told her no matter how silly any rules are, or how much you disagree with them, this is my mother-in-law's house, and the rules need to be respected if you're going to stay there. She's now super upset, and I feel terrible. Am I the a-hole? Your number one responsibility as a parent is to protect your children. The first time you meet this guy, he flouts a rule about smoking because he thinks it's a stupid rule. What about other rules you have for your children? Your mother's feelings take a backseat to your children's well-being, not the a-hole. Just go for a walk. I think it may be a bit unreasonable to ask him to have absolutely none on him, but don't smoke in, near, around the house. Just take a stroll. Life isn't that hard. Obvious not the a-hole. Not the a-hole. Why would you allow your children to go off with someone who smokes and doesn't respect your rules and boundaries? I understand that your mom is disappointed, but I think the well-being of your children comes first. I smoke, but never around when babysitting or around someone 14 or younger. If something happens, you're simply 3 to 4 seconds slower with every move you want to make. Not the a-hole. The only impression he's given you is that he can't follow simple, logical rules put in place for safety. To add, it's insanely disrespectful to smoke in someone's house when they have clear rules about it. Why would you believe he is going to follow any of the ones that directly involve the kids? Or be respectful to them, your wishes, or even what your mother may have to say about their care? Your children. If she can't see that because of her relationship with this guy, that's not your fault. That's exactly what I thought. When I was questioning myself and my decision, I thought, I used to break rules I thought were stupid, but then I realized I did that as a teenager, not as an adult who respects other people, their property and rules.